the Thirsty Thursday, just banging our way through the first hour here.
Dr. Carole is waiting for you.
Okay. Now we will momentarily be joined by Dr. Carole Lieberman. She will be joining us. I think she was scheduled for segment hour 2, but no, she's here with us now. And she'll be with us in 1 minute. And there's a big story out today that like 120 retired generals, admirals, and Homeland Security type people have signed a letter questioning the legitimacy of the presidential election as well as Biden's health to be commander-in-chief. And the 120 signatories on this letter say Biden's mental and physical condition cannot be ignored. What more does President Biden have to do to convince everyone, Republicans, Democrats alike, that it's time to admit the emperor has no clothes? I believe I have used that before. But, you know, for a man with significant mental issues, I try to bring in the foremost expert in psychiatry, America's psychiatrist, Dr. Carole Lieberman, joins us right now. Hello, Dr. Carole.
Hi there.
Dr. Carole, are there a number of reasons why we should consider invoking the 25th Amendment?
Absolutely. I have actually been talking about Biden's mental health since before the election. Now, before the election, one could say that I was talking about that in a partisan way, which wasn't really true. But certainly now that he is president, we have a lot to be concerned about. You know, it's not only unlikely that he would remember the code, the nuclear code, but I don't know if he could even remember where the football is unless someone hands it to him. This is a serious, I mean, I shouldn't be laughing. This is a super serious matter. And you know, just recently, some recent examples, I mean, I've been giving examples all along, but some recent examples are, and I'm sure you've heard this one, where he said, you guys are bad. I'm not supposed to be answering all these questions. I'm supposed to leave. I mean, he's the president of the United States. We should be concerned as to who is telling him what to do. Now, granted, it's like an obvious thing to tell him because when he answers impromptu questions, that's when it's more obvious that he has mental problems. By mental problems, I mean dementia. I've been calling it encroaching dementia.
So I know, as I mentioned earlier, you're America's psychiatrist, and I know any real professional would never officially diagnose someone without having examined them themselves. But do you, as you know, one of the foremost experts of this stuff, from a third-party perspective, objective, do you see a composite of the signs that would exist in someone with encroaching dementia?
Yes, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. I have not personally examined President Biden, but I have done countless examinations of people, patients, and also as a forensic psychiatrist, I've done many cases where there's a question of whether someone has mental capacity, such as to have signed a will at a particular time, for example. And so I know, you know, the signs of dementia and and I've watched President Biden, you know, in many different interviews, many situations. And so it is from that viewpoint, that perspective, that body of knowledge that I am making these comments and really, you know, telling people like enough is enough. You know, everybody before the election, especially people were saying, oh, he's just gaffes, you know, Joe's gaffes and all of that. But I mean, now that we have been seeing more of him, and it's a little interesting that they have been allowing him to come out on stage more.
I know.
When he keeps making these mistakes that make it more obvious, you know, that he's having problems. Another one that he did recently was he said, I just had a solid meeting and he couldn't remember Kevin McCarthy's name. And so he was, you know, thinking for a while, and I don't know if somebody whispered it to him or what, but then he said, with the Republican leader of the House, like when he figured out, you know, who this
Where was I? Right. Where am I? What was I trying to remember? Oh, at least I remember I was trying to come up with the Republican leader of the House's name. And he had a much more embarrassing fit of that a month and a half or two when he couldn't remember the name of the head of the Pentagon, Lloyd Austin, right?
Yeah.
And then he said he's one of the good guys who runs that outfit over there. He couldn't even remember the guy's name, the organization he works for, or where he works. None of it came to him. I thought that was really scary.
Right. And especially since we're talking about the Pentagon, we're talking about the defense of this country. I don't think that this has ever happened where over 120 retired generals and admirals have written such a letter, it's just saying something that they know so many people don't want to hear. And yet they obviously feel this strongly. Particularly, they said they feel it's their responsibility as part of what they're supposed to be doing, protecting the country, or what they were supposed to be doing. So this is incredibly strong. Plus, what's really interesting is not only did they kind of state what should be obvious about his mental decline, but also they talked about that the election was a fraud. They didn't use the word fraud. They said they questioned the election.
The integrity of the election.
Yeah, right. And that is bold. It
sure is. John Poindexter was in there. There was some real deal people in there. But throughout Trump's presidency, the left was, ringing up every retired general on earth to write all kinds of letters about why Trump should be impeached and why he's broken this and the emolument. They tried every which way, but you're not going to see anything similar to that. But Doc, do you think, and I am very concerned because I personally believe that Joe Biden was losing all the primaries in the beginning. And when it came to Super Tuesday in South Carolina, James Clyburn, who is, a mentor to Barack Obama, came over to Joe Biden and said, okay, buddy, listen, we're in charge now. Okay. If you want to win on Super Tuesday and become president, I'm going to endorse you, but you just sit there and be Joe Biden. We'll tell you what to do from here. Clyburn came out. South Carolina went to Joe. All the other places followed. All the other candidates dropped out. And to me, right there, Barack Obama, all of the usual suspects, Bill Ayers, who was behind Barack Obama's entire career, domestic terrorist, Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, the whole conglomerate is actually back in there. And I think they may be letting Joe talk a little more right now, so that it becomes demonstrable to the public that he's lost it, and then they can move him out and put Kamala Harris in there.
Well, but it's a good question. I wonder if is Kamala Harris going to be more malleable than Joe? I mean, yes, I totally agree that it's Obama pulling the strings, that Joe's the puppet and Obama's pulling the strings, which particularly worries me now. Not that this should be a surprise, but, with what's happening in Israel and with Obama pulling the strings, and we know that Obama wants to destroy Israel. So this is one of perhaps the first example of where it really is a very, very crucial. Well, he's done a lot of things, put out a lot of orders, and so executive orders, that were really bad that Obama did. But this now is, where war is raging more violently than ever, and I'm sure that Obama is behind it.
Oh yeah, it doesn't leave much to the imagination in my view, Doc, just a little off the beaten path here. Breaking news that this Colonial Pipeline company that was seized by hackers. Okay, they've paid now. Colonial has paid a nearly $5 million ransom fee, and the hackers have unlocked the pipeline. This kind of cause a malaise on people to think at any time some unknown people from a foreign land could shut down our primary pipeline to a third of the country.
Yes, absolutely. And I hadn't heard that they paid the ransom. Last I knew, they weren't going to pay ransom because that just encourages more people to hack and the price to go up. You can never pay a ransom. I mean, the person will always demand more and more and more. They'll just do it again next week or next month or whatever. Yes, this is, in regard to panic buying, for example, people, it's not just about the gas, just like it wasn't about the toilet paper itself. It's about the fact that there are these outside influences that are suddenly, having all of this influence can do things that really affect us.
Yeah. To me, it is a little frightening because, you see already the log jam is airline flights are going up. So, the people on the left, they don't want airplanes anymore in the Green New Deal. So they're just fine with a hacker attack because gas prices go up. It's a main component in the pricing of flights. The flights go up, less people travel. The airline stocks start to get hurt again. The government's got to bail them out again. So it's like this vicious cycle.
Yes.
And we somewhere there's got to be a beacon of light for people to think the pandemic's over. Let's get back to business,
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, we talked the other day a little bit about reluctant reentry syndrome and some of the symptoms, but I think it's also that we are depressed as a country. When before the election, obviously depending upon who the viewer voted for, or wanted to win, but there was hope. It was such a different country, like at Trump's rallies and so on. There was all this hope and excitement and all that. And now that he's been out of the picture and Biden has been doing all these outrageous things with executive orders, I think we're all depressed. It's not just, part of the reluctant reentry syndrome is that we're depressed. We want to stay home. Some of the same symptoms are symptoms of depression, wanting to stay home in your pajamas, and so that it is a big concern.
So, Doc, finally, just let me ask you this. Now, Anthony Fauci has flipped again, okay? And breaking news report is Anthony Fauci's now come out and said, people who have been vaccinated against coronavirus do not have to wear a mask outside. He said it would be only necessary in a very unusual situation. So now we're back to maybe free again.
Fauci says whatever he has to say to get in the news cycle of that day. Fauci wants to be on television all the time. I have long ago stopped listening to what Fauci says, except to say that he has been from the beginning the voice of gloom and doom, making more people get sick from coronavirus because he stresses us out and weakens our immune system. But when you think about what he says, it really has to do with what can I say today that'll get a headline?
It's pretty sad because I got to tell you, in the beginning of this thing, as a proud Italian American, although Columbus Day is under attack here in New York City,
yes.
I don't even want to tell you the pain and suffering this is causing me, Dr. Lieberman. I may sue the mayor for cruel and unusual punishment against my ancestors' heritage, but
emotional distress. You have to have an emotional distress claim.
I'm having anxiety every day that the very foundations of this country are trying to be canceled. And when you have the New York City Department of Education dictating public policy, we're no longer acknowledging the accomplishments of someone that is held in great pride by the Italian American community, Christopher Columbus. And Dr. Lieberman, you may call me crazy, but you already know I'm crazy. But long ago, I hate to sound, to minimize any other race, but long ago, Italians were more persecuted than anyone else other than like actual held slaves, right? And the last time there was a mass lynching in America, it was 11 Italian Sicilian men who were accused of killing a cop, and they were acquitted at trial, but an angry mob hung all 11 men in the town square, right? So long ago, for governmental purposes, they lumped in Italians as white, right, as Caucasian. And we're actually one of the smaller minorities, Italian Americans. And there's no one that like kind of fights for them because they're all just, nose to the grindstone people. And to me, the progressives know, let's whittle away. Let's get rid of one where they won't say anything. And the first thing they do is go for Christopher Columbus. It drives me crazy.
Yes, I think it is awful. The head of one of the teachers' unions was just on television talking about how they want to go back to school, which is all well and good, except that what are they going to be teaching their kids? Like not to celebrate Christopher Columbus Day, for example. It's yes, kids need to go back to school, but if they're going to be able to teach some of these things, this curriculum, it's not a good idea. It's better when parents are able to see it at home on Zoom to see what the kids are being taught.
Yeah, Randy Weingarten, actually, chief leftist, propagandist, progressive socialist, head of the American Federation of Teachers, right? Second largest teachers union in the country.
Yes.
And she was on Fox the other day talking about 1619 Project, critical race theory, right?
Yeah.
And they're actually using the teachers' unions to propagandize the minds of children. That's what they're doing here. And these teachers' unions have way too much power. And I got to tell you, Dr. Lieberman, I talk to teachers all the time who are like, my leadership doesn't represent how I feel. So they're really, it's like a hostile takeover of the mass of teachers by these corrupt leaders.
Yes. And the same thing with school boards. They're also deciding, what's going to get taught and not listening to parents. Yes, this is really really a very serious situation from the top, from Biden to the little kids going to school.
Okay. She is in Beverly Hills. She is one of the foremost experts on all kinds of psychiatric evaluations, and a great legal scholar as well, subject matter expert, shall I say. Dr. Carole Lieberman, American psychiatrist, thank you so much as usual. I love seeing you. As soon as I see your room, I have a warming feeling over me, and my emotional distress from the cancellation of Columbus Day has been quelled slightly by your calm, thoughtful tones. Thank you, Dr. Lieberman. You're the bomb.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon.